Okay, shall we begin? Manasi, Sarth, Shantanu. So why there are only three today? Did you complete the test anyway? Acha, MST. Okay, so anyway, you are here, so let us do it. Are you ready? So I'll be quickly doing it. So in case, yeah, very good, Shantanu. Very nice. Okay. So let's begin and do this fast. In case you find any difficulty in understanding, okay, stop me, interrupt me. We can repeat the explanation. Okay. Right. Question number one. The unexplained digressions into the finer points of quantum electrodynamics are so dash that so that means it is cause and effect question. So dash that whenever you see this, read the portion with that whatever is given here. You read this. Okay. And think of a logical cause for this. So this will be the cause. This will be the effect. So here what is given with that, this is the result. Even readers with a physics degree would be wise to keep a textbook handy to make sense of them. That means he is saying that uh, even physics degree holders also need a textbook to understand this. So how are those points? They are very difficult to understand, right? So very difficult to understand is what? Not uninteresting, not controversial, not humorless, unsophisticated. It is frustrating. That means frustrating is actually a word which we use in different contexts. But actually by elimination, we don't find any other word here. Okay. Frustrating means it is very it's very tough for us, tough on the mind. Okay. So you'll be annoyed because of not identifying something or understanding. Yes. Right. Yes. Question number two. Sorry. The belief that politicians might become dash after their election to office led to means A leads to B means A is the cause, B is the effect. Okay. So what did it lead to? Lead to the appointment of ethics officers. Ethics means moral officers. Ethics deals with morals. So appointment of ethics officers at various levels of government. So what was the belief? The belief was that they become very unethical. Unethical means here there is only one word, venal. Venal means corrupt. Corrupt. Corruption. Okay. Entrenched means deep-rooted. Very strong. Scrupulous is also related to morals. If they are moral, if politicians become moral, then why should you have ethics officers? Ethics officers oversee the morals. Okay, if somebody is immoral, then you need ethics officers. So this is something which is misleading. That is why it is kept in the beginning. So it is option C. Venal means corrupt. Okay. Question number three. This word even is a very good word actually on English language. It's sometimes difficult to understand the relevance of this. Okay. Even the prices are cheap, in this mall that even dash people can afford it. So can I say rich people? Even rich people can afford it, even poor people. Okay, so that even means that is an intensifier which actually yeah, brings us a different tone. Actually, even the charisma. So he's saying even the charisma and technical prowess of two fine actors are not dash the task of fully invigorating a grey domestic drama with a tired tale to tell. So he is actually, this word indicates that tired tale indicates that he is talking negative about the movie. Okay, so the story is very tiring and it's a grey domestic drama. So even the actors fine charisma and technical prowess is not dash the task of invigorating. Invigorating means activating. So it is not sufficient, adequate. So you must always combine this not with all these things when you are seeing the meaning. So this is a very common type of questions on GRE. So attached to not or less or the word hardly or no, okay, or never, seldom, rarely. So these are the words normally before beginning of the blank. If you have these words, then it is a double negative. If this is a negative already, so if you put another negative, it becomes positive. If it becomes another positive, then it becomes negative. So that's the technique. Question number 4. There may be a threshold below which BP reductions become dash, given that a long-running study showed no decreased heart risk for drops in BP below a certain point. So that means BP reduction, what is the study saying? Given that means it is cause and effect again. Whenever you see given or given that, it is a cause and effect. The study is showing that the decrease in the heart attack risk is not there, is not seen, after a certain point of decrease in the BP. So that means after a certain point of decrease in the BP, there is no use of it. Okay, it becomes irrelevant. So irrelevant means it is not significant. Okay, not worthwhile, not arduous, indiscernibles which cannot be seen. You can see it, but it is not important. So it becomes unnecessary. Superfluous is another word which is cautiously used. Okay, superfluous means extra and hence unnecessary. So if it is more than necessary, that is also useless, unnecessary. So superfluous is that kind of a word. Question number 5. Two blank question. Unlike is a comparison, right? Contrast. So what is the contrast? Unlike the problems in recent financial scandals, issues raised by the regulators in this case appear largely to pertain to unwieldy accounting rules that are open to widely divergent interpretations. Okay, so these issues raised by regulators are not like the financial scandals. Okay, scandal means it's a scam. That's a strong negative, situation. Whereas these issues raised by regulators are not so, harmful as those in the scams. These are only related to misinterpreting or divergent interpretations of the rules. These are. So These are because of the unwieldy accounting rules, not to dash transactions designed to dash corporate malfeasance. So this not to is pointing to something. He's referring to financial scandals. So in the scams or scandals, what happens? What kind of transactions happen? Fake transactions will happen, not justifiable transactions, not unpremeditated transactions. Sham means bogus. Bogus means fake. Because he is talking about scandals here, and he's showing contrast between scandals and the regulators. So how are these issues different from the scandals? He's saying these issues are pertaining to these kinds of interpretation of the rules, not to these things, not to the things which are related to scandals, not to bogus transactions designed to dash corporate malfeasance. So the transactions are fake. So what happens because of those fake transactions, corporate malfeasance? It will hide or it will cover. So it is option D. Okay. So in order to hide their malfeasance, they will do some bogus transactions. So both bogus is a negative word. This he's cloaking the malfeasance. That means he's there hiding their inefficiencies through the scandals. That's what happens in scandals. A little abstract, but think of the meaning and think which one is connecting to what. Okay. So most of the times it is all about that. You think that this is referring to issues, but actually it is referring to scandals. And pay attention to the important words given in the question. Okay. So sixth one, look at this. Everyone has routines that govern their work. That means people have routines. So here, what is the important word here? What are we talking about? Routines. The myth is that when he says myth, that is a misconception, wrong idea, is that artists are somehow different. So what is the author saying? Artists are not different. They are also having the routines. Okay. So what is the myth about the artists? That they don't have routines. Okay. That they reject routines. So I need something which means routine here. Routine means that is done habitually. So option B is correct. But of course, that is not true. Most artists work as the rest of us do, dash, day by day, according to their own customs. So how do they work? With a routine. Okay. So if you have a routine, do you sporadically? Sporadically means sparingly. So this is wrong. Impetuously means rashly or foolishly. This is incorrect. So what is left is our answer, ploddingly. Okay. Next. Some of them are, a little abstract and a little difficult to understand, but still you must go with the words. You must be very quick. Otherwise, time will not be sufficient. Okay. Yes. Question number 7. Repression of painful memories is sometimes called willed forgetting. Okay. So if you don't want to think about something painful, you repress it. You don't allow them to come into your consciousness. That is what is called willed forgetting. That means you intentionally forget that thing. Yet, contrast, true forgetting is dash than the phenomenon of repressed memory. So he's showing some difference between true forgetting and willed forgetting. In spite of the effort that it dash, repressing unwanted memories is less dash than truly forgetting them. And most of the times in 3 blank words, remember 3 blank questions, always, most of the times, many cases, 90% of the cases, the clue will be for the 3rd blank. So in this case also, the last part after the comma will act as a clue. So this helps you to fill this particular blank. Then this information will in turn help here. Then the entire thing helps here. So it is almost always in the reverse order actually. So first let us understand repressing unwanted memories is less dash than truly forgetting them, because because repressed memories are prone to come back. So if they are coming back after repression, then is it less? If it is coming back, what is it? Less again. Less is another. It is coming before blank. So that means, is it less immediate or less arduous, less permanent? Because they are coming back again and again. So they are not permanently erased from your memory. So obviously it is less permanent. So this is the correct one. Okay. Now come to the second one. Repressing unwanted memories is less permanent than truly forgetting them. So he means to say that truly forgetting is permanent, relatively. Okay. Now repressing unwanted memories in spite of the effort that it dash. That means the repressed memories are coming back even though you are putting a lot of effort to. So are you putting a lot of effort? That is the contrast. The amount of that effort that you're putting is more, but the forgetting is actually very less permanent. So in spite of the effort that it entails means requires. So that means it requires a lot of efforts. Okay. Now true forgetting is dash than the phenomenon of refresh. So out of all this, what do we understand? Is it far more common? True forgetting? We don't know which one is common. So this is gone. Is it less controlled? Which one is less controlled? Repressed memories are less controlled actually. So if you put less control here, then it will be wrong. True forgetting is less controlled. Actually, true forgetting is more controlled. So this is actually a misleading kind of an answer. Okay, so different in its effects. Rather than saying that it is permanent or it is more effective, he's saying it is different in its effect. So if I cancel out A and C, what I am left with is option B. Manasi, you are close, but one option. Okay. Huh. Yes. Okay. So less control is something that will be tempted to take, but actually it should be different in its effect. Okay. So this is another difficult question. So if you answer such questions, your score is bound to be on the higher side. Next one. Rather than, once it is a contrast, rather than viewing the Massachusetts Bay Colony's antinomian controversy. So if you don't understand some things, so be it, no problem. But you can at least understand some, something like controversy. Okay. And in a controversy, what happens? Two opposite things, there will be a conflict, right? So controversy is seen, it is viewed as the inevitable dash of the intransigent opposing forces. So opposing forces, what do? They conflict with each other. So when you are looking at a controversy, what happens to the opposing forces? What do? They collide with each other. They hit with each other. They don't meld. Meld means union, unite. Do they unite opposing forces, or do they dissolve? So they collide with each other because they are opposing forces. The nature of opposing forces itself is to collide with each other, to conflict with each other. So option C. So that logic helps you there. Okay. Now it is already given that they are opposing forces. Opposing forces of radical and dash beliefs. So all we need to have is the opposite of radical in this blank, because they are opposing forces. Radical means something new. Radical is revolutionary. So revolutionary is the synonym of radical. So we don't want this. Orthodox is the opposite of it. That is conventional. Okay. Now come to the next part. So here he gave two opposing forces. Then here he said male and female. Here we should find out one more opposing force. Opposite of secular should come here. Secular opposite is religious. Religious means clerical. Who are clerics? Clerics are religious heads. So clerical. Okay. So that is our, it's not civil. Manasi, did you get it? Secular means not civil. Opposite is clerical. But actually clerical is thought of as clerks. But clerics has, there is another word, clerics. Okay. Civil is the opposite of military actually. Okay. Civil and military, they are the opposites normally. Next. Question number 9. So we'll come to passages a little later. We'll finish over this. Let's look at 15th one. It would have been disingenuous. Disingenuous means misleading. Yes. Clerical. Yes. Very good. Clerical is like clergy. It would have been disingenuous of the candidate to appear dash when her opponent won the election, but she congratulated the victor nonetheless. So if my opponent wins the election, I go and congratulate him. It will look misleading. Okay. So if I appear if I am rejoicing my opponent's election, then I am a little, I will be like, I am misleading the people. Okay. So option is, if you look, ecstatic and euphoric, happy. So B and E are one pair. Okay. Crestfallen, disgruntled, that is another pair, which means if you are dissatisfied, then obviously that's a logical way of reacting to your defeat. But if you illogically react to your defeat by being very happy, then it is misleading, is it not? So disingenuous means misleading. So even though it appeared misleading to be dash on the occasion of my opponent winning the election, I still went ahead and congratulated the victor. So appear, ecstatic and euphoric is the correct logic. Then, as market forces penetrate firms and bid up the value of attributes of labor that are more measurable than is the knowledge born of experience. So labor is more measurable. That is the key point here. Okay. Than the knowledge born of experience. So experience cannot be measured. The attributes of labor can be measured. Okay. And market forces are more focusing on the attributes of labor because it can be measured. So it can be expected that the trends in wages will not dash those whose main value lies in experiential knowledge. So the trends in wages also will not support in that case, is it not? Because what is measured is labor. Experience cannot be measured. Therefore, the trends will favor or trends will aid. So favor and aid, they are the words here. Okay. Next, the point we might still take from the First World War is the old one, that wars are always, as one historian aptly puts it, dash. Now, don't go with the outside knowledge that you have. Wars normally are, they are very dangerous and ruining, is it not? If you go with the outside knowledge, immediately you will pick these two answers. Okay. If you go by the logic of the sentence, there is a colon here. That means he is defining this word. Whenever you have a blank followed by a comma or a colon, you have to go for this one. So this will come into this blank. So what is he saying about the wars? They produce unforeseeable results. That means are they unsurprising? No, they are surprising. So they are astounding and stunning. So these two are the actual words. B and E are correct. Remember, you should go by the logic of the sentence. There will be such topics given in GRE just to confuse you, because we'll be more tempted to answer from our outside knowledge rather than by the logic of the sentence. Now look at 18th one. This is the kind of movie stuffed with intimations of faraway strife and people in suits. Okay. Talking frantically on cell phones and walkie-talkies. Okay, that is conventionally described as a political thriller. So this is the kind of movie that is conventionally described as a political thriller, but the film is as apolitical as it is dash. So that means it is not political, not a thriller also. It is claimed to be a political thriller, but it is apolitical and also not a thriller. So it is as apolitical as it is a thriller. The opposite of thrilling means what? No, not thrilling means what? D and F, yes. Humdrum means very dull, monotonous, boring. Dull is also monotonous and boring. So opposite of thrill we want, because it's not political, not thrilling. Not thrilling means humdrum and dull. Unprecedented means never before, for the first time. Subtle, refined, this is another pair. Subtle means something that you cannot, not subtle and dull. Subtle means something that is clearly not seen. Okay. Only if you go to the depths of it, you can see. So subtle means very deep. Even refined things are not so easy to, easy to perceive. So refined is also very deep, sophisticated. So refined and subtle, they are one pair. Humdrum and dull. Humdrum means very monotonous. Okay. Yeah. Question 19, 20 are passages. 24, 25 also. So let us look at these critical reasoning questions first. Question number 25. Let us see. The average temperature of lobster-rich waters off the coast of Falkland has been increasing for some years. In warmer water, lobsters grow faster. In particular, lobsters' larvae take less time to reach the size at which they are no longer vulnerable to predation by young cod, the chief threat to their survival. So temperatures are increasing, but actually lobsters grow faster in the warmer water, and lobsters larvae, it is very beneficial for it. Okay. And it quickly reaches the size where it will not be eaten by the codfish. Okay. Which means everything is positive for lobster larvae. Consequently, the survival rate of lobster larvae must be going up. And the lobster population in Falkland coast waters is bound to increase. So this is the argument. Now we have to weaken this. We have to say that even though everything is positive for this lobster larvae, the population will not grow. That is what you have to prove. So which answer proves it? So you have to prove that the population will not grow. Now let us see each and every answer. There are indications that in recent years, fishing fleet operating off the coast of Falkland has been taking cod at an unsustainably high rate. That means cod fish is being removed. That means the threat is still more removed. So this is a positive thing. This is not weakening it. It is actually strengthening it. The increase in water temperature has not as pronounced as the increase in average soil temperature. This is comparison of soil temperature with water temperature. It's already given there. That's the temperatures are increasing. So this is irrelevant. Because of their speeded up growth, lobsters now get large enough to be legal catch before they reach reproductive maturity. So that means even before reproducing, these are caught by the fishermen. So that means legally the size is enough to catch them even before they become reproductive. So that means what happens? That means, just give me a minute. Hello. Okay. So C option is good enough to say that because the lobster are caught, what happens? The existing ones are removed from the sea, and then there are no further reproduction, which means no new lobster are produced. So it is going to weaken this. So this is a negative thing. So keep it. Even though lobsters grow faster in warmer waters have no effect on the maximum size to which lobster can eventually grow. That means it can grow to any size. Okay. No effect on lobster size mean on the maximum size. Maximum size, we don't know. It can reach any size. We are only talking about the size. Maximum size is different, size is different. Okay. So this is actually stating something positive. Cod are cold water species, and the increasing water temperatures have caused a northward shift in Falkland cod population. So cod population is moving somewhere, which means it is a positive sign for the existing lobster population. So these are strengthening. The only one weakening is option C. Okay. So that's our answer. Then question number 24. So I'm just giving you how to deal with these questions. Okay. So I'm not so for a weekend question, how do you have to work out? Understand the argument first, and then decide what exactly you have to prove. That's a quick way of summarizing what you should do. Otherwise, you will keep on moving from passage to answer choice. That will take a lot of time. So once you are clearing in your mind that I have to prove that population of lobsters will not increase. Okay, so keep that in mind and move across all the options. Whichever option gives you a hint, keep it and move on. Read all the answers, then you pick your answer. Okay. Yes, let us look at 21st question. This is another critical reasoning question. Okay. In 1998, the US Department of Transportation received nearly 10,000 consumer complaints about airlines. Okay. In 1999, it received over 20,000. Moreover, the number of complaints per 1 lakh passengers also more than doubled. Okay. So that means 10,000 has become 20,000 in 1 year, and percentage also has doubled, more than doubled. In both years, the vast majority of complaints concerned flight delays, cancellations, mishandled baggage, and customer service. Clearly, therefore, despite the US airline industry's serious efforts to improve performance in these areas, passenger dissatisfaction with airline service increased significantly in 1999. Okay, so he's saying because the complaints have increased and the percentage also has doubled. Okay, obviously it is because of the dissatisfaction. So that is the claim of the argument. Now what we have to weaken this. So what is that you have to prove? The number of complaints increasing is not a reflection of the passenger dissatisfaction. That is what you have to prove. So which answer proves it? So that should be our focus. Okay. Now here A causes B can be weakened by giving alternate reason for the increase. So he's saying because complaints have increased, he's thinking about dissatisfaction as the cause. Okay. So there could be some other cause for the increase in the complaints. Okay. So maybe like D option, the filing of complaints in 1998 was difficult. Now in 1999, it has been made very easy for the people to make complaints, even on online. So then the number of complaints previously also there were 1,000 complaints. Now also there are 1,000. But actually in the previous year, only 500 complaints were registered because of the difficulty of complaining. Now all the 1,000 have been complained this year because of the ease of complaining. So it's not that the actual number of complaints have increased, but it is actually because of the ease of complaining. So This is actually weakening the claim that it is not because of dissatisfaction, but it is because of something else. So always bring an alternate cause to weaken the original cause. Okay. Now let us look at this weekends. Now let us look at the other options. Let's look at B. The number of passengers flying on US airlines was significantly higher in 1999 than in 1998. So it is giving a reason why the complaints have increased, but it's not weakening it. Okay. Fewer bags per thousand passengers flying on US airlines were lost or delayed. This is also strengthening the claim. Although the percentage of flights that arrived on time dropped slightly overall from 77% to 76%, some US airlines on-time rate was actually better. So some of them are better does not change the fact that complaints have increased. Maybe some of them are better. The argument doesn't claim that everyone is bad. It is saying that the complaints have increased. That means many of them are bad, some of them may be good. So it does not weaken that. Now E also, although the number of consumer complaints increased for every major US airline in 99, for some airlines the extent of the increase was substantial, whereas for others it was extremely small. So it is classifying among the nature of the complaints. For some there are extremely high, for some it is very low. But overall we are talking about the complaints. We are not segregating the complaints on the basis of the airline. So E is also irrelevant for us. Okay. So what we can see here is alternate reason. Go for an alternate cause if it is a cause and effect question. Okay. Yes, this is another passage, interesting one. Arctic Sea 13 and 14. Okay. So Arctic Sea comes in two varieties. Seasonal ice forms in winter and then melts in summer, while perennial ice persists year round. To the untrained eye, all sea ice looks similar, but by licking it, one can estimate how long a particular piece has been floating around. When ice begins to form in seawater, it forces out salt, which has no place in the crystal structure. So this is entirely technical thing. It is talking about the formation of ice and then differences between seasonal ice and perennial ice and so on and so forth. So directly attack the question. Don't try to understand. Go to the question and then come back to the passage, find out the area, and then read now very clearly so that our objective is to solve the question. Okay. It's not about reading the entire thing and understanding. Okay, the passage mentions which are the following as being characteristic of seasonal ice. Now it is very clear where you should read. Now he said read there now. Seasonal ice forms in winter and then melts in summer. It says for an untrained eye, all sea ice look similar. So A is correct. Is it not? Then it is typically filled with fine vein-like channels. So vein-like channels, where are they? Are they in seasonal ice or perennial ice? Eventually, if the ice survives, these pockets of brain drain out through fine vein-like channels. So it is in the long-term ice, survived ice. So B is not suitable for the seasonal ice. So B is gone. It tastes saltier than perennial ice. This is correct again. Okay. Because if it is staying for a long time, the ice, the salt is forced out, is it not? Which means long-term ice do not have any salt in it. So obviously, saltier is the one which is seasonal. So A and C are the correct options here. Okay. Then come to 14th question. This is a contextual meaning question. So when he's talking about the channels, he used the word fine channels. Fine means very minute. Okay. So acceptable, elegant are gone, pure are gone, precise and small are left now. Is it precise or small? It is small, right? The precise means exact. So it is not, we are not talking about accuracy. We are talking about the size. So small is correct. Okay. So contextual understanding of the words. Now, do you think we need to understand everything here? We would have spent, unnecessarily we would have spent a lot of time reading, understanding. We always go to the question. That is the easier way. Okay. Give a reading initially. Okay. First few lines and then, yes, this is it. So you know what it is talking about. Then come to the questions right there. Hardly it should take half a minute to reach the question. Then you spend some time when you know clearly what you want from the passage. Okay. This is again a very big passage. Okay. So, but the task remains the same. Let's look at this one. So the small ones, you left this passage for the end. That's fine. And don't leave it. Huge one. So there will be one such big passage, in both the sections put together. There will be only one. So that one you have to address. Of course, you can keep it for the end, but you should never leave it, or nor you should answer, randomly. And I'll give you one simple technique to answer the big passage. Most of the questions will be from the last paragraph of that big passage, because last paragraph will be dealing with the author's opinions, author's ideas about the content. So read the first paragraph, first few lines, at least some 5-6 sentences, and then go to the last paragraph directly. Out of 4 questions, 3 questions will be from the last paragraph itself. Okay. So that's an easy way. So if you focus on the last paragraph, you will get almost 3 questions correctly. Okay. And one primary purpose question anyway, that will be there. Primary purpose also will be towards the end, because what he is aiming, what is the aim and objective of the passage will be understood only when you focus on the end of the passage. So obviously the last paragraph will give you everything literally from to solve all the questions. Okay. So don't think that it's a huge one. Just initially you read something and then focus on the last paragraph. That's enough. Okay. Historians credit repeated locust invasions in the 19th century with reshaping US agriculture west of Mississippi River. So locust invasions helped reshape the agriculture. That's what the claim is initially. So admonished by government entomologists, farmers began to diversify. Wheat had come to nearly monopolize the region, but it was particularly vulnerable to locusts. In 1873, just before the locusts' most withering offensive, nearly 2/3 of Minnesota farmland was producing wheat. By the invasion's last year, that fraction had dropped to less than 1/6. Farmers learned that uh, peas and beans were far less vulnerable to the insects, and corn was a more robust grain than wheat. In addition to planting alternative crops, many farmers turned to dairy and beef production. Okay. Uh, although pastures were often damaged by the locusts, these lands were almost always left in better shape than the crops were. According to the passage, before the recommendations by the government entomologists, which of the following was true of the farming west of the Mississippi River? That is the question. Okay. Farmers focused primarily on growing wheat. So diversification was not there, no? So A is correct, right? So they were only, wheat was monopolizing. Okay. And then peas and beans had not yet been planted in the region. We don't know. Not yet been planted. How do they know then? Farmers learned that peas and beans were far less vulnerable means they would have planted it. Then only they would have known comparative benefits of planting peas and beans. So not yet been planted is not correct. So look at that word, not yet been. That means by that time they did not know anything about peas and beans. That is the meaning of that. So B is incorrect. A relatively small portion of farmland was devoted to crops other than wheat, which means like peas and beans. A relatively small portion. Yes, monopoly means main crop, dominant crop. That doesn't mean that there is no other crop. There might be crops, but only a fraction, okay, less than 1/6 it is mentioned there. So A and C are the correct inferences you can draw. In the context, it appears robust means very strong. So in this case, it is strong means very vigorous. It can be rich also, but is it talking about nutrition, productive, demanding, crude? Crude is not correct. Crude means raw, unrefined. Demanding, putting lot of demands or pressures. Okay. Productive means yielding, yield is more. So he's talking in the context of withstanding the effects of the locusts. So obviously it is vigorous. Okay. So it is full of vitality. Okay. Uh, just give me some time and then I'll give you some time to go through that big one passage once again. So try to go through it. Spend some 10-15 minutes on that. I'll get back to you after 15-20 minutes. So we'll finish off the rest of the questions then. Okay, let's finish this. From 9 to 12, the questions are based on this following reading passage. So until recently, many anthropologists assumed that the environment of what is now the southwestern US shaped the social history. So that means until recently, they assumed this means environment shaped the social history and culture of regions, indigenous peoples. Building on this assumption, archaeologists asserted that adverse environmental conditions and droughts were responsible for the disappearances and migrations of populations from many sites they once inhabited. So 2 points are very clear in that they assumed until recently something about the environment and its impact on the social history and the culture. And they interpreted the events in some way based on that point. However, that means here contrast. Such deterministic arguments fail to acknowledge that local environment variability in the US makes generalizing about the environment difficult. Okay. So it is talking about the failure of those kinds of arguments which are mentioned in the first paragraph. So that is understood. So what is he going to discuss in the second paragraph is very clear from the opening sentence of the second paragraph. So he's going to talk about the environmental variability, not the constancy. Okay, because the environment is variable. So there is no uniform environment everywhere in that area. Therefore, it becomes very difficult to generalize anything, to conclude anything from that. Okay. Then he went on discussing that variation in the environment in the rest of the paragraph. Now, the researchers characterized episodes of variation in southwestern environments by frequency. So this is again one more point extension. Low frequency environmental process and high frequency processes. So we understand that, however, they found no simple correlation between environmental process and socio-cultural change or persistence. So this is going opposite to what is given at the beginning, that there is a relationship between environment and the socio-culture. Although early Pueblo peoples did protect themselves against environmental risk and uncertainty, they responded variously on different occasions to similar patterns of high frequency. Now let's come to the last part of it, because this we have to read carefully. The researchers identified 7 major adaptive responses, including increased mobility, relocation of permanent settlements, changes in substance foods. These findings suggest that groups' adaptive choices depended on cultural and social as well as environmental factors and were flexible strategies rather than uncomplicated reactions to environmental change. Environmental conditions mattered. This is a very valued statement, last part. This is what the author is arriving at. Environmental conditions mattered, but they were rarely sufficient to account for socio-cultural persistence. So remember the assumption that we begin with. It says the environment is very clearly responsible for the socio-cultural. Now here he is saying that it is so complex that you cannot just base your conclusions on the environment alone. You need to consider something else. What is that variability in the environment, adaptive responses, so on and so forth. Okay. Group size and composition, culture, contact with other groups, and individual choices and actions were more significant for a population survival than were climate and environment. So there is a change in the assumption or the research. So this passage primary focus is to to disprove something, the assumption that it is not just enough, it is not adequate, it is insufficient actually. Okay, so that's what the argument is focusing on. So the passage is primarily concerned with explaining why recent research findings have created controversy. So they are not creating controversy. In fact, they are actually proving the opposite, pointing out the flaws in a research methodology. Methodology is not discussed here at all. Methodology means how the research was done. So that's a misleading word. Presenting evidence to challenge an explanation and offering an alternative explanation. This is correct. You are challenging an assumption and you are coming up with an alternate explanation, this is correct. Elucidating the means by which certain groups have adapted. This is definitely discussed, but that is not the primary purpose of the passage. Defending a long held, it's not defending, it is challenging in fact. So E can be gone. So it is option C. Now let's go to question number 10. Now this is what, you can understand by the last paragraph I told last paragraph in the passage is very, very crucial. Which of the following findings would most strongly support the assertion made by the archaeologists mentioned in line 3? So first go to line 3. And what is that? The claim that they made is they asserted that adverse environmental conditions and droughts were responsible for the disappearance and migrations of population. So people migrate because of droughts and bad environmental conditions. So you have to find out something that supports it from these 5 options. So droughts and bad environmental conditions are responsible for people leaving one place and moving to another place. So which option? A is saying a population remained in a certain region. We're talking about migration. So A is not correct. The range of a certain group's agricultural activity increased. This is not talking about migration at all. As winters grew increasingly mild in a certain region, the nomadic residents of the region continued to move between their summer and winter encamp. So he is talking about movement between. So to and fro movement. We are talking about migration. So this is possible answer, but keep it. If you find a better answer, you go for it. An agricultural population began to trade for supplies of a grain instead of producing the grain in its. This has nothing to do with. A half century of drought and falling groundwater levels caused a certain population to abandon their settlements along the riverbank. This is correct. This is appropriately proving the assertion made in the first paragraph. So E option is correct. So it's all about going to that part, reading there carefully, reading all the answers, find out one answer, then go to the next question. That's all. Don't waste your time. The fact that adjacent agricultural fields can produce significantly different yields is offered as evidence of. This also, you have a line reference there. Go to that line reference, understand why it is given there. So what is he giving it as an evidence for? We know that he is giving it as an evidence for variability. Okay, but let us see. 16 to 17. Rainfall, for example. So when he mentioned rainfall, for example, what does that mean? Going to talk about my pen. Yes, yeah, right. So it is, just let me note it here. So it's giving here rainfall, for example, where 15 to 17 means these lines. So varied within and between local valley systems so that even adjacent agricultural fields can produce significantly different yields. So why did he give this as an example for? What is this is an example for? So you have to read a little from before to understand why it is given. The researchers found it impossible to provide a single generally applicable characterization of environmental conditions for the region. Rather, they found that local areas experienced different patterns of rainfall, wind erosion, rainfall, for example. So they are giving it as an example of this, that they experience different patterns of rainfall. Now this much is understood. Now go to the question and find out an answer which matches with it. Okay. And you will find something there that matches with your expectation. 11th one. So what is it talking about? So it is option D, because it's talking about local climatic variation in the environment of Southwest. So it is an example for giving the variation in the climatic conditions. So it is option D. It can be inferred from the passage that which of the following activities is not an example, that not, remember, an example of a population responding to high frequency environmental process. Here there are a couple of things. Whenever two classifications are mentioned, like high frequency is one category mentioned in the passage, low frequency is another category. So you have to find out which of this is not a high frequency response. So if it is not a high frequency response, one of these could be a low frequency response also. So go to the passage and see what activities are mentioned under low frequency and see if any of that is mentioned here. That will not be a high frequency one, is it not? So that's a common way of putting the answers in the option. So obviously you have to go to the opposite category and then see which of that is mentioned. That will be not of the other category. So obviously it is what? 12th one. Not an example of a population responding to high frequency environmental process. So low frequency one is groundwater level, is it not? Moving because of groundwater level, that is a low frequency reaction response. So it cannot be a high frequency response. So it is option C. Okay. So I almost gave you all the tips and techniques for big passage, small passage. Yes, let me see what somebody is asking. 22 and 24, yes. 22 and 24, yes. This is, yeah. 19th century architect Emmanuel contended that the cathedral, built primarily in the late 12th century, was supported from the very beginning by a system of flying buttresses. So one fellow is saying that it is supported from the very beginning by a system of flying buttresses. Other commentators, however, this is a two types of opinions. One fellow is saying that from the beginning only they are there. The other people are saying that they came in the middle. They did not have flying buttress until the 13th or 14th century, when they were added to update the building aesthetically or correct its structural flaws. So that means these people, this group of people believe that these flying buttresses came sometime in the middle, whereas these people are saying that they are from the very beginning. Now, did they resolve this? So finally, you can see here, although post 12th century modifications and renovations complicate the efforts to resolve this controversy, it is nevertheless possible to tell that both the nave and the choir, the churches too, have always had flying buttresses. It is clear now the 19th century paint and plaster have been removed. They date from 12th century. Moreover, they have chevron decoration. So all these things are mentioned. Okay. So what is the passage primarily concerned with? That we should identify. Okay. So let's see. What is the passage primarily concerned with? Tracing the development of a controversy. Tracing means, how the controversy developed. Actually, he is giving both versions here. And then finally, he said that it may be that they are from the very beginning itself. Discussing obstacles. Obstacles are mentioned in only one line, but he still went ahead and said that it is possible to tell. So that's not the main idea. Arguing in support of one side in a controversy. Yes, because he's saying that they are from the very beginning in the final part. He mentioned the controversy, but at the same time, finally, whatever he arrived at, that is the primary purpose, right? Normally, you should look for the primary purpose towards the end of the passage and see what happened there. Is there any resolution? Is there any conclusion? Is there any objection? So this is what you have to check. So that will be the actual purpose of the passage. Okay. Now, so it should be option C, analyzing the assumptions underlying the claims made in a controversy. Explaining analysis of the assumptions, no. Actually, he resolved that to a certain extent. He resolved it. Actually, he said that there is evidence to say that they are flying buttresses are from the very beginning. Okay. Explaining why evidence relevant to a controversy has been overlooked. So it's not about overlooking, it's actually giving the evidence. Now 23, the claim of the other commentators suggests that they believe which are the following about Notre Dame. So what are the other commentators saying actually? That they came sometime in the middle, they were not from the very beginning, right? So what is their claim? So what do they believe? That is the question is asked here. So let's see. It was the inspiration for many that is not given there, or nor is it suggested. Its design flaws were not apparent until flying buttresses were added. This is using the words there, but if you look closely at the answer B, it is actually giving a different meaning actually. So its design flaws were not apparent until flying buttresses were added. Now, these people are saying that they were added to correct the flaws. Not that after adding the flaws became apparent. There is a lot of difference in meaning with B option. Its flying buttresses are embellished with decoration characteristic of the 13th and 14th century. They didn't mention anything about decoration there. It had been modified in some respects before flying buttresses were added in the 13th or 14th century. Is this correct? No. Adding flying buttresses itself a modification that happened actually. So before that, whatever is modified is not suggested anywhere. So first time it was modified, then only. So E says it was originally constructed in an architectural style that was considered outmoded by the 13th or 14th century. That means did they consider it outdated by that time? Let us see here. Do you find anything? Yes. Other commentators insist, however, that Notre Dame did not have flying buttresses until the 13th or 14th century, when they were added to update the building. Updating means what? Something that is outdated, therefore they are updating it. So you will find some word or some clue word there in the context to find out the correct answer. So when you are checking, you should be mindful of such kinds of words, okay? Now 24th question, the author's argument concerning Notre Dame's flying buttresses depends on which of the following assumptions about the choir's lower flyers. So he was talking about lower flyers towards the end, right? So that is actually the key evidence for resolving the controversy. So the low flyers have chevron decoration, and chevron decoration was characteristic of 12th century and was out of favor by the 14th century. That means 12th century, 14th is entirely absent from the modifications to the building that can be dated with confidence to the 13th century. That means the chevron decoration was actually in the 12th century. It was not there during the 13th century because that is out of date during that time. Okay. And out of favor by 14th century. Is entirely absent from modifications which happened in 13th century. Therefore, the chevron decoration is clearly in the 12th century, and the decoration is applied to the lower flyers, and lower flyers are the part of the buttresses. Okay. So obviously the buttresses are from the very beginning is convinced by this kind of an argument. So the line of reasoning says that because the decoration is the major point. So you have to, the assumption also very clearly revolves around that kind of evidence used there for convincing the reader about the conclusion. Okay, so that means they accurately reproduce the decoration on the choir's original lower flyers. So this is actually talking about lower flyers and the decoration, which is actually the basis for their conclusion there. So you don't have to go to any other thing. They accurately, so if they are not accurately reproducing the decoration on the original one, okay, then obviously the entire argument goes wrong. So the argument totally depends on the fact that the decoration is believed to be the original decoration happened during the construction of the lower buttresses. Okay. So otherwise this entire argument falls apart because it depends on that particular piece of evidence. So the assumption is very clearly that the decoration was original, and the things that were on the original lower flyers, they are accurate. Okay. So B is also talking about decoration, but we are talking about the internal decoration, not the external decoration. Okay. So they were the models for the choir's upper flyers, models for the nave's original lower flyers. So this is not the argument. So always remember, assumption is the evidence that you focus on, especially in the in these passages, assumption means what is the evidence? What is the evidence on which the argument is based on? Conclusion is based on. So something that reinforces that evidence will be the assumption. Okay. So here, what is reinforced? A decoration part. So he's talking about decoration only in two options. Check that. He's talking about lower surfaces. So A. So sometimes you have to go with some kind of hunches when you are practicing so many questions. By now you will realize which one is the correct answer, which one is not, which one is a wording which is close to the correct answer. So rather than spending a lot of extra time on question, I would say that you believe in your hunches. When technique is correct, you can believe in your hunches. Okay. So 22 again, Shantanu. Okay. So 22 passage is primarily concerned with tracing the development of a controversy needs. You are only talking about controversy development. Okay. But actually, what about the last part? That is the primary purpose. No, he is actually giving evidence to resolve that, to give clarity on that controversy. And he is clearly supporting that they are right from the beginning, the author. So it is neither A nor B, it is C. Okay. Analyzing the assumptions underlying. So is it analysis and claims? Finally, he gave a conclusion also, right? So explaining why evidence relevant to a controversy has been. So A, B, and E are easy to eliminate. Between C and D, is it analyzing the assumptions or arguing in support of one side in a controversy? You see, the last part is saying that although post-12th century modifications complicate the efforts to resolve this controversy, it is nevertheless possible to tell that they always had flying buttresses. It is clear now. Moreover, so this is all the important point, is it not? So that's what he's trying to prove. That is the purpose of the passage. See, I'm not just giving a controversy here. The author is not just presenting a controversy. He's also resolving it. He's trying to say that no. There is something that you can solve here because of this evidence. So the writer is more interested in giving you the solution rather than controversy. Okay. All right, guys. I hope I am able to give you some tips and techniques. So practice it. Try to benefit out of it and score high. Sectional tests you can solve from of your portal, IMS portal. Okay. And you can work out the full tests also from the IMS portal. All right. Most likely there won't be classes for you. Even if there are, just put in the group. So I'll make sure that, I'll inform the authorities not to give the schedule next week. I didn't see any schedule anyway. So you can assume that there is no class next week. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. All right. Bye.